my wife is from England. I don't speak. Well, I can still speak French. When I go visit my brother, it takes a couple days. Then I'm back into it.
Oh
But
yeah.
but the problem is I've been here since I was, like I say, 20, and I'm now
Okay.
75. For 55 years here, I've been here.
Okay.
So I don't use the French as often as I should,
Okay.
and so therefore it's hard to remember the words because
Yeah.
my vocabulary is all English. I still can have a conversation in French, but sometimes some of the words escape me what I have to say, right?
Yeah. You don't practice it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
I can remember going a few years back helping my brother put in a bathroom, and I needed a jigsaw. But
okay.
the guy there at a rental place didn't speak English, and I know how to speak French, but I don't know what do you call a jigsaw in French. So I had to explain to him in French what the saw does. You know, it's a jigsaw, it goes up and down.
Yeah.
He
And he
says
said jigsaw.
it's sauteurs. So a jumping saw.
Oh yeah. Oh
He
oui,
called
oui.
it sauteurs.
Six auteurs. But most of the
That's
time,
a jigsaw, right? So I had no idea that that's what the name of it was. So things like that makes it a little difficult. But other than that, I can get by. And so long as people understand that sometimes I'll break into English and then back into French or whatever
yeah.
when I'm trying to speak French. But and I don't even know if when I speak French if I still have a Quebec accent or is it now a little bit out west accent. I have no idea. So
yeah.
when did you start? When did you start following or listening to Eric?
2015. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
2015.
and
Actually, I came across Frank Seekins. I don't know if you know him.
oh yeah, Frank is. We were good friends. Yeah, if you
Okay.
look at his book, you can see on one of his books that he sold on the front page. There's since I paid for the book at that time, or we put $1,000 down for the book. He put a picture of a menorah that I had painted that's living in that's in my
Oh,
living room.
oui.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
but when I didn't go back for the second time for his next publishing, he didn't put it in.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah. No, I came across Frank Seekins and I heard him on the preach. He said that in Paleo Hebrew, every letter means something. And that was it. For me, that's what, without knowing it exists, that's what I wanted. So I started doing research on YouTube to look up for anything related to Paleo Hebrew about myself, a scrapbook, and I would write Aleph in modern Hebrew, Aleph in Paleo Hebrew, and write down everything it means, right? And then I came across there was a Rabbi Mordecai Kraft also who had good insights, and different people here and there. Brad Scott, I really appreciate everything about the Hebrew culture. And then I came across Eric, which I'm like, wow, it's a privilege to stumble again,
yeah,
and because
it
Eric
really
has the Mishkan pattern that I never heard anywhere. So this is where with Eric it's very intense. So I start with the Héritologie course and been using the Klein's dictionary for some years now. It's almost screw up by
yeah. I'm
dictionary.
gonna have to write a new one because it's all beat up. Mine is all beat up. You can see it
Oh
here.
yeah. So when did you start listening to Eric?
About 4 years, 5 years ago.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, and I really enjoy his teaching. I have
Yeah.
I teach every weekend. I'm a Torah teacher and I teach every weekend, not
Okay.
to the same depth as Eric, although my mindset is identical to his, except he goes a little deeper into the word than I did. But I love it because that's as deep as I want to go, if not further. So
Yeah.
I find it very, very interesting to listen to him because, like you say, he has insights that I've never heard before.
Yeah.
Although, but it's almost automatically agreeing with it because it's exactly what I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I have
So,
his chart here on the wall. I don't know if
yeah,
you can see. That's his chart. I used the first time I saw Eric on YouTube, and he had this chart there, and I stopped the video and I was trying to write down everything because I didn't know we could get it through his website. So I use it. I taught this to my grandkids, and they're pretty good at it. They make drawings of the words. The other day with my kids, I was playing, and I said, okay, I don't remember. I should have write down the word, but I said, if you were to use those letters to write the word, I think it was rubber or something like that. I don't know. I said, which letter would you take? And my granddaughter, who's 10 years old, she grabbed 3 letters, and then she had the fourth one, and we look up in the dictionary, and it was the meaning of that word, because the letters mean something. So when you think according to the meaning of the letters, you put them together, and you have the right words, right? So that's
I mean,
fun
just
with the
imagine
kids.
if you're raising your kids that way at 9, 10 years old, what they're going to be like, the information they're going to have when
Yeah,
in their 20s and 30s, if they continue to follow it.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it is wonderful. So do you belong to a messianic group there, or where you're at?
No, no, I'm a Lone Ranger. I've been a Lone Ranger for quite a long time. I have different groups here, friends here and there.
Yeah.
In Quebec, there's one Hugo and Susie that lives 6 hours. Hello, hi there.
How you doing? Sorry about that.
No,
It's
no
okay.
worries, Sean. This is Ghislaine.
Hi,
Sorry.
Sean.
Hey, Lynn. How you doing?
I'm doing great, great. Yeah.
It's another Canadian.
All
Are
right.
we, Sean?
Yeah, that
Where
way I
do you
don't
live?
feel outnumbered.
North of the
So,
Yeah,
Glenn,
yeah.
if you, later on, maybe you can give me your email address and we can keep in touch that way. I'm not big on Facebook because I really don't know use it too much and everything else. But by email, if you're willing, we can email each other sometimes and go from there.
Where are you from, Sean?
Cincinnati, Ohio, United States.
Oh, that's not Canada.
No.
No, no. 222. Yeah.
Across the lake from you guys, down south of you.
Yeah. So what about you, Kurt? How long have you been listening to Eric or doing the Paleo Hebrew?
Boy, I want to say probably on and off like since 2006. Is that right?
all
It's
right.
2016. No, 2016. Sorry.
Okay.
And then this year, I just decided, Sally, who's going to join us here in a minute, her and I were talking about this the other day. It's just I decided this year, like, what am I going to do with this time? Because my kid's not in school and just nobody's working really. So
Yeah.
Eric and I had a conversation on the phone. I just decided to commit to learning the language.
Mhm.
For me, I have to immerse myself into something. I'm not a big reader because I have ADD really bad, and so I lose my place all the time. So this was the best avenue for me to be able to force myself to record the videos, and plus Eric would go 2 to 3 months without a video, and it's just like, dude, that's too long, man. I need to hear from you every week. So.
No, that's great. Since you do that, it's exciting to know there's always going to have a new one for the week. Yeah, that's great. That's very great. Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting. You have the Shields project behind you.
Yeah, this one. That's one I was I don't know where in Ohio with Eric, and no, Jim came here, and he had print a lot of these on. It's plastic stickers. Actually, I just put it on a board type of thing. Yeah.
Cool.
So Sean, how's your week been, Sean?
Been pretty good, brother. I been busy working and just working along, plugging along, taking care of kids and praising Yah, and it's been a good week. I mean, been blessed.
Yeah, well, we just finished celebrating the week of Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and for us, Sunday was the seventh day, and so we had some people over, and then we also did some stuff on Skype, I guess it's Skype, and it's fun, It really is getting together and doing the feasts, and everybody gets something different out of it, and I try to get people involved by asking, how is this year different than last year, and what's it like compared to the people where you used to celebrate Easter? How has this changed your life? And it's nice when people can share about what it's done for them, right?
Right.
How closer it's brought them. And there's some people that get very, very emotional about it, which is fantastic as far as I'm concerned, and letting us know about how it's changed their lives and how closer they feel to Yahweh because of this understanding that they have of the scriptures. So, and the fact that I'm teaching them it really makes me feel good when they get the message and they understand and they're moving ahead rather than going to the same Christian church every Sunday and getting the same message for the next 20 years. Because you could go back after 30, 40 years to any church and you get the same message you got 30, 40 years ago. It doesn't change.
Right.
There's no growth anywhere.
Right.
It's sad, but
It's a dead church, man. I tell you, there's nothing there. Last time I was in a Sunday church, it wasn't the same, just wasn't the same.
Mhm.
If you know the truth and you see the truth and you say, no.
Mhm.
hi, Sally, you're
Sally.
upside down or sideways. I don't know how that works.
Shalom, Brother Reem. Well, I'm using my phone, and it's like trying to get it to stay sitting
There you
up.
go. That's better.
So, it might take me. It's a technical thing. Hopefully, it stays right where it. Oh, there it goes. So,
I had that situation last video you did.
I thought, I wonder if it works sitting sideways, and it seemed to, but I don't know if that works for the, There it goes.
There you go. We can see you. Hi, my name is Mark.
Hi, Mark. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, my
And-
name is Guylaine.
Hi, Gaylen. It's so good to see you.
Yeah.
And I'm Sean. Sean, it's good to meet you.
Reem. Shalom, shalom, shalom. It's so good to get together. I'm so glad we get to meet each other. This is incredibly wonderful. I'm so excited about it. And where's Eric?
He's late. He's always late.
He's always late.
Timely,
Fashionably late.
that's, I totally understand that. No complaints, no complaints. That's great. So I'm in Texas,
Okay.
just north of Dallas. And I know, Kurt, you're in New Hampshire. And then Mark is in Canada.
In Surrey, near Vancouver, Canada. It's called Surrey.
Okay. Is it? And Gillian, you're in Canada too, right?
Yeah, but the east part. He's from the west part, and I'm from the east part, Quebec.
Wow.
Guylain's only 4.5 hour drive from me, which is kind of funny.
That is kind of, that's not far at all.
No.
That's like,
Well,
No.
she's a 30-hour or maybe 40-hour drive from me, so.
Oh yeah.
that's a long drive. Wow.
Yeah.
But, and Sean, where are you?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
And he's
We're all
closer,
over.
he's
He's
closer to
scattered,
Glen than I am.
right? My goodness. We're scattered. You see where
we
we are?
are.
Place. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's what it means to be in the diaspora. You're all over the place.
All over the place.
Yeah. Any one of you guys ever shared with Eric during Sukkot, being with him for a week?
I've done that. I have done that.
Isn't it intense? Like, he never goes to bed, huh? He preached all night, all day, all morning, never stopped to eat. We have to stop him, and he would go to bed like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And teaching again, it's like we're just trying to get our coffee in because it's like awake, but it's so good. And my very first Sukkot was that very kind of Sukkot with Eric.
Oh yeah. Wow.
And I was like, this is the best time I have ever had.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
I mean, ever. And then I was so enthusiastic about that Sukkot. I was just so ready for the next Sukkot. So I going all the way to Oregon. I drove my little
Wow.
drove all the way to Oregon to Sukkot with Eric and Karen in 2019, and I was there I took the whole month off to do this. An epic adventure. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. I was like, this is the best time I've ever had. And I went to the coast, saw the sun setting, and Eric, I mean, I went by myself, but I mean, it was just that incredible. I wasn't by myself, yet I was, but I wasn't. It was just so wonderful. Yeah.
Hey, Mark, can I ask you, do you have a light or a lamp on your desk by any chance?
No,
No?
no, it's just the sunlight's coming in. Maybe I'll shut that off.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Mark, a little Shay, this is a different time of day for these phone calls.
It is. Here it's
Yeah.
10 o'clock. Past 10 o'clock, yeah.
You know, and it's interesting. If Eric's going to talk about the verses that I think he said he's going to talk about, it's really
What is it?
Is that better?
Better,
That-
much better. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. It's in Exodus,
Okay.
and one of the words.
Sean. Sorry. Can you tilt your camera down? Because I think we're gonna run. There you go. Just a little bit more.
Me?
So we don't send
No,
the same
Sean. Just Sean.
image as before.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to do that. Kilroy was here thing.
Yeah, let me see if I can get this thing.
Okay, so you say it's Exodus.
Yeah, I think it's chapter 27.
Okay.
And I think if he may talk about the entire chapter, but I specifically kind of
Pretty good.
looked at the first two verses.
Okay.
And if he is going to talk about that, it's kind of interesting that we're having this gathering tonight in the evening, and we're lighting all of our lamps to be able to see. And one of the words in the very first verse is ner, which is it's a noon resh, which means lamp or candle or light. It's really cool. It's like you start getting into this, and
That's what the menorah stands for, right?
it's
That's
just coming into everything, into the existence, and illuminating our consciousness starts becoming more aware of things. Everything connect. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
No,
And it's part of the word menorah, which of course, the letters nun resh are part of the word menorah, which is the lampstand that's inside, because it sheds light. But again, it's wonderful whether, no matter where you go in the scripture, if you look at the Hebrew words and the letters, it's really enlightening what it can do for you, and how much deeper you can get into the word of the Father. And what happens, even when I've also studied a lot of the names, and when you see names inside the story, the whatever story it is, the names, the definition of the names support the story. So if you look at the names themselves, whether it's Eliakim or Elijah or whatever, and you look at part of the story, it just so happens that the definition of the names support the narrative of the story.
amazing. Like Moshe.
Yeah.
You know, the if you study just the name of Moshe, and it means in a summation, to draw out. Well, that's exactly what Yahuwah did, but he did it through Moshe, but he did it with all of it, with Israel coming out of Egypt. It was like this huge thing.
Yeah.
In just the name Moshe. And it's amazing. I know what you're saying, Mark. I get so like amazed. I'm just my brain, like last night I was talking with Cart and he was saying some stuff. I was like, my goodness, my whole thing just expanded. Oh, okay, I know it did. Like this stuff is incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. I agree. I totally agree. Everything starts to show up.
Yeah, and like I say, Eric really helps us by getting into it really deeply, and it's fun. It'd be nice if he had a regular Sabbath service in a week, every week. But he's so busy traveling, and he's in demand so many places. He can only do so much. And I've been teaching now for about 12 or 13 years, because until 2000, which is when I became a Christian, I hadn't read the Bible ever. Because as a Catholic boy, you'll know, Guylaine, we weren't allowed to read the Catholic Bible when I was a kid. It was against the church policy. You weren't even allowed to own a Bible, much less read it. That was being raised a Catholic. And then later on, they were allowed, I think, in the mid-60s to early 70s, but it had to be a Catholic Bible. So I'd never read it until 2000, when I gave my heart to, back then was to Jesus.
So you're a brand new baby in faith.
There he is.
Hi, Guylaine.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, Sally.
Hi, Shalom.
Well, we got everybody here.
Where's
Now,
Kurt?
I'm right up here in the corner.
Okay.
I don't see Kurt anywhere.
I don't either. He
I'm
says
here.
okay.
I don't see Eric. I don't see Eric anywhere.
he's in the bottom right corner in my screen. So
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Mine too.
Looks like the
Shalom.
Brady Bunch.
Eric.
Okay, there I see Eric. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Galen.
Okay, have you decided what kind of subject we're going to talk on tonight? Has it to do with the Passover or anything like that, or what's happening?
Well, didn't Kurt tell you that it was titled "On Earth as It Is in Heaven"? I think we thought. Didn't I thought we talked about that?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
On earth as it is in heaven. Okay. And what they call the Lord's Prayer.
In Exodus 25 to 28. Maybe this is it.
Wasn't it, Sally, you talked about Exodus 27, no?
Yeah, Exodus 27, 20, and 21. Those are the two little that I studied out those two verses.
So, Kurt, we were discussing a concept about something about Abraham, and we said that would be a good subject to go on about, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, Abraham somehow knew to sacrifice Isaac. He was asked to, so we're told. And then the idea of somehow the Mishkan, or the it could be argued that for 400 years, our ancestors were in slavery in Egypt. Some people have said different numbers, but we could just round it off to 400 years. So somehow they forgot what Joseph did, saved them from a famine, and then decided to just turn on our ancestors and enslave them for 400 years. And they forgot to keep the things of Yahweh for all that time, until Moses comes up to Pharaoh and says, hey, we got to go out in the wilderness because we haven't done this thing for a really long time. And then that just sets a bunch of stuff in motion. I think with everybody doing Passover relatively close to now, it'd be a good time to talk about it because the story's still fresh in our brain. And then it seems like for 40 years they were walking across the desert and they were doing these things, and then Eric and I were talking about how it got forgotten again, like until Hezekiah, right? Is that what we were talking about?
Well, tell you what, just so we don't do like we did last week and do a whole 1 hour before you open it up in prayer, why don't
I'll open up in prayer, unless one of you wants to open up in prayer. Usually the new guy prays, but you're not guys, so.
Well, go ahead, and we'll just jump right into the discussion of the matter.
Yehoah, thank you for the ability to all meet together today to talk about your words. Thank you for the ability to still be able to keep your Passovers, and that we're willing to just hear what your words have to say in your language, Father, just let it go forth. And I just thank you so much. Thank you so much for just growing this, and everybody that's here with the heart to hear what you have to say. In Yahushua's name I pray, amen.
Hallelujah. Amen.
So there was, as I was riding in home today, I happened to hit the Christian radio station, a couple different preachers, and they were initiating a topic matter that they'll be going on for a while. One of the guys was J. Vernon McGee with the Bible Bus. I don't know if you ever heard him, but he was trying to tell people, hey, listen, this is a God book and a man book. So the subject of what he was talking about is trying to encourage people, saying, this really is a unique and special, completely out of the ordinary piece of literature. And there's a lot of people that just don't either read the Bible or don't know anything about the Bible or don't care about the Bible, nor do they have any reason why they should. So you get a guy like J. Vernon McGee, and he even admitted, he says, listen, we're going to be discussing a translation, so I suggest you have a good Bible dictionary and a concordance. He was suggesting Strong's or Young's, could have said Brown Driver Briggs. And, if you study the Bible that way, you'll get a lot out of it. You'll get something out of it. You'll get enough to keep scholars busy for their entire life. But the unique thing about this particular way of studying that we're talking about here is that it's not actually trying to be dependent on a dictionary or a concordance or on religious doctrines, or you might say, established fundamental beliefs of a certain group that says this is how we differ from those guys because we believe these tenets or these basic established principles, and somebody else has a different. For example, when does a day start? When does a year start? How do you keep Shabbat? What food is acceptable versus not acceptable? Those are deal breakers when it comes to, you might say, fellowship, and people will start their own denomination based on stuff like that. And this particular thing that we're talking about is a whole different matter. Sorry, I was doing some chainsaw work and I got a piece of a tree in my eye, I think.
Piece of a tree.
Anyway, the idea that you can actually not know the ancient language, and you look at it and it looks completely foreign, so alien it could have been from Mars. But with this method of knowing who Yahuwah is and what is close to his heart, that's what's in these letters. And by just looking at the letters that spell these words, with the help of the dictionary, you can actually read a message embedded within this ancient script, even though you're illiterate. And the idea of that, to me, is absolutely mind-blowing, astounding, world-changing.
And I just want to interrupt you too, and I'm going to send a link to everybody here. But they found an artifact recently that's over 800 years before what they call the Common Era, and it's really close to your font, the writing on it. The mem is almost identical. The kuf is almost identical. So
these letters that I use were all taken from various artifacts somewhere, whether it's a cave drawing or written with carbon on a piece of terracotta or chipped into a rock. I mean, every one of these letters I use is a legitimate letter shape. It's just I haven't seen an exact collection with all these letters. Some collections of the letters have a lot of them, but I picked out the ones that I thought were the most elegant, simple, clear, expressive, minimalist, unadorned with other distracting pieces to their orthography. So that's what makes this particular font, you might say, unique. Let me bring out one point as long as we're talking about that. There's two basic shapes of the letter Wa or Vav. One is the vertical with the cup shape above it. So it almost looks like the stem of a wine glass, a chalice, a goblet with the bowl. And the other one is zigzag, sort of I've just been bending conduit for a couple of weeks. So you got a couple 90-degree turns, that you hook together and come down like that with another one hashing through it like that. That's the typical Vav that most people use. Why is that? The letter is the sixth letter, V-A-V, or I spell it U-A-W because it sounds like both a U and a W. Some people don't like the Vav. They think that's a new use of phonetics. But the point is, it means a nail. So the tent stakes, which held down the ropes of the Mishkan, were Vavs. They're nails holding it in. But the concept of something which attaches one thing to something else is really at the heart of the Vav. So you could say, well, a nail or a tent stake holds things together, okay, but a piece of chewing gum can hold a paper to the bottom of a desk. So is the chewing gum a Vav? Yeah. A bridge can hold or secure one side of the bank of the river to the other side. We're just down in San Francisco. See the Golden Gate Bridge down there. That's a Vav.
A big one.
It's
Yeah.
a big orange one. So at any point that you are looking at these letters and trying to decipher or translate or make sense of, to do the J. Vernon McGee Bible Bus, that's great, but it's at a certain level of, I would say, veritably the Peshat, the surface narrative. And people listening to that program, he was going on about how they get hundreds of letters and how people say how much of an impact it had on their life. And that's wonderful. That's a great thing. Even if he gets into the metaphorical analysis of allegories, which is the next level, that you got the PRDS, right? Peshat, Remez, Dross, and so the Remez is that thinking and pulling this together with that, and stories that you can glean something from. That's kind of the Remez level, and he probably does that level too. People to say, boy, this book is so different, so special, so unlike any other book on the face of the earth, written by, I think they said something like 45 or 47 different authors spread out over 1,500 years, yet it's totally cohesive. You'll find the significance of that at the drosh level of studying. But if you're only looking at the English or even the Greek and Latin, which are translations, they're different. They're spun off from the Hebrew. So why I keep saying, I keep trying to encourage people to learn Hebrew. I don't say you have to learn Hebrew to get into heaven. I don't say you're going to earn extra points in heaven or get extra treasures if you learn Hebrew. But, and perhaps because Guylaine, you and Sally are here, that perhaps you guys can even take some point during the talk here to express what you think is the value or what you've gotten out of putting your efforts into reading this original script. In fact, here, let me just conclude what I'm saying by this, and then maybe you could do that. The significance of seeing that each letter means something. Vav is not just a nail, but it's that which attaches. So you could say a passport attaches you to have a better time traveling in another country than if you were just trying to sneak in. You're going to get in all kinds of trouble. So a passport's a type of vav. There's a connection there. So each letter has these concepts, and as we pull these concepts into clarity and then line them up and organize them together, realizing that these are not human inventions. The Semitic alphabet, absolutely, I believe, is not a human contrivance or an artifice, something man-made, manufactured by human hands as a collection of objects of significance within the culture. That's what people say. So, for example, if you're a Bedouin, you've got a tent. So bed is a tent, not a house, not a structured house. And you got a camel. You don't have a TR7 sitting out front. So that's a gimel, but you can hop in your Ferrari or your Volkswagen and drive around and you're gimmeling. So,
Did you just say a TR7?
Yeah, that's
an old school. I'm gonna have to put a picture of that.
Not many people know about them, by golly.
South mechanic, he knows what a TR7 is. That's great. When I was a kid, I wanted one of those really bad.
Just came to mind.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, if we look at what each one of these letters means, it lays into the text a whole different layer of being able to read that I dare say none of these other Bible studies will address at all. They can't. It's impossible. And even if you take a Hebrew class from a Jewish resource, they're not going to tell you that the letter Zion has to do with Yeshua being crucified. They're not going to go there. Nor will they say that the Zadi is a picture of Yeshua resurrecting out of the grave after 3 days and 3 nights. The Catholic station I heard just as I was driving in, punching through the channels, they were talking about, that Jesus rose on the 3rd day. That's not true. It's not what he said. He said he was going to be in the grave 3 days and 3 nights, then rise. So it had to be after the third day. And depending on when a day starts, whether it starts in the morning or the evening, then, you know, but a little thing like that. He rose on the third day. I think that was the Apostolic Creed the guy was quoting. Not true. And yet this one preacher, I heard 3 different stations. So here's this one preacher saying, this is a God book, and by golly, this is you can believe every word in here, except you're reading English that came out of Latin or Greek or German. And they've mucked it up. They've changed it. They've turned it around, and you can believe some stuff, but it's no longer a God book. But then if you're going to translate the meaning of the word God, that's a perversion. Maybe it is a God book. It's not a Yahweh articulation. We could put it that way. But so anyway, let me turn it over to y'all and say, do you want to give any sort of a testimony, an encouragement, a perspective, or maybe something you've gotten out of doing this study that you can say this is worthwhile? How about you, Gillian?
Actually, I was more into a question because, you know, I think, thank you for doing the Psalm 68. I was working on it for 3 weeks, and I was working on, I think, 7 verses. But I don't dare. I get a word, okay? I get the depth of a word, more of a larger perspective, or, you know, different meaning of that word when I use Paleo Hebrew. But to start to rewrite an entire sentences, I don't dare, you know, because I'm like, oh my goodness, like to rewrite the Bible, I still feel like, how can I dare do that, right?
It's too sacred to be too casual about it. This is a very austere, this is a very, you might say, scary or having to be done with great respect. I don't sit here and just try to mess around with these meanings of these words and take it lightly or casually at all. Just so you know, even though we're about to really do some funny business with these words.
Yeah. Well, yeah, actually, my prayer is like, I pray for the fear of Yah, because I thought, man, I'm playing with something big here. And yeah, I was teaching that to some friends last weekend, and you know, they start using the letter and putting their theology into the letters, and I went, whoa, you know, that's not it. And so it's kind of, you know, I was thinking about that sentence you said the other day about don't do this at home, and like, this is kind of true with the patio. I don't know.
Well, that's exactly what I was referring to. Exactly the feeling you had. There was one. Aaron, if you're there, this isn't put you down, but this is using you as an example. A few weeks ago, he said in his thinking, Aleph meant animals. And it's like, oh, wait a second. Yeah, Aleph is drawn as an ox head. The word Aleph means ox, but Aleph, I never think of animals per se. Mm-hmm. I hardly even think of an ox other than what an ox represents. But I never think of Aleph representing animals. Mm-hmm. And yet, when he's looking at it, that's what he thinks. So he's putting, like what you just described, somebody seeing a letter and putting in their doctrine. That's the problem. Yeah. So the problem is everybody's going to do that. And I'm even doing that. But then where I'm saying that's a problem, it's like, man, this whole thing can get completely blown out of reference and be completely horribly wrong. However, and this is where this phrase comes in, on earth as it is in heaven. That's the cinch key. That's what locks it down. So my perspective is that, and this is right on the heels of the Mishkan pattern, which is why we're talking about this subject this week after doing the Mishkan pattern last week, is that if you look in Genesis 1, nobody or nothing even existed yet. You could say the universe didn't even exist, and Elohim hasn't declared his name. It just says, in the beginning, Elohim creates, and then some people say it's a recreation or a repair. That's a different matter. But he builds these structures. He creates the heavens and the earth. Okay, well then this is his perspective.
So wait, I got to call timeout because somebody said they were keeping score. Every time you said that's a different matter, we'll talk about that another time. To make sure that you actually do that. I think it was Sally who said she was going to do that.
Yeah. Like, you know.
Wait a minute, what did I talk about?
He gets going and he says he gets into something that's so interesting and he goes, but that's another matter. We can talk about that another time. And I've heard.
Write it down. Write it down.
Write it down, yeah.
How about if we record it on a video and you address it later?
That would be
I make
fantastic.
you. Oh, that's what we're doing.
Even take tally of all the times that he said that. And so it would be like a project that alone. Would be
Yeah, it would be.
That would be
it's
great.
amazing. Pretty amazing.
Well, so I got to keep my mind on track here. So
Yeah.
the idea, what I was trying to say is that if there's any thoughts or business or stuff going on in heaven, that is all about the mind of Yahuwah. And the question is, he who has remained invisible beyond the perception of the five senses of the humans that he made, how do we even know who he is? It has to be him disclosing to us. That's our own. I've heard so many people, well-meaning, and I'm not saying I'm against it, but they're saying you got to find the inner reckoning of truth, like this inner gyroscope, this inner compass. But yet the Bible tells us in another place, it says the human heart is desperately wicked and who can know it? It's like, if you trust your own heart, I mean, I was raised as a Christian believing you cannot trust your own. It will lead you astray. It'll follow winds of emotion and irrational ration and illogical logic, and it'll lies and deceptions and disinformation, and you'll end up lost at sea. So if you're not supposed to trust your heart, you're supposed to trust the Bible. And then you start looking close at a couple of things. I was talking to somebody the other day about this similar subject. It's like the Bible, we have the Bible. Yeah, but why did they take the name of Yahuwah out almost 7,000 times? When he says, I am the Lord, that is my name. It's written in King James. That's absolutely not true. Just not true. He did not say, I am the Lord, that is my name.
Right.
And if anytime you see the word Satan in the Bible and you say, oh, well, that is actually a Hebrew word, Samic Tet Nun, which they have kept the articulated phonics and just wrote them with English letters. Why didn't they do the same thing with Elohim or Yahuwah? Sure, they could have. Oh, they did it for the devil, and they got pretty close with Moses. It should have been Moshe, and then Yeremiah became Jeremiah. But Satan, boy, they nailed that one. Bingo, right on the. It's like, come on, these guys are up to something. And then for them to take the Aleph Tav, the one word spelled Aleph Tav, 2 letters, the fourth Genesis 1, doesn't exist. And yet, I was told by people who know way back when that those smartest rabbis, the greatest intellectuals, they don't even know what the Aleph Tav means, why it's there, or the essence of what it's trying to express. They do know that it's used grammatically as a device. If I do this with my finger, kind of like, quotation marks, you write them if you're writing, but you might say quote and say something if you're articulating it, but that's kind of what the Aleph Tav is used for. So if the Aleph Tav points from the action of the verb to the noun that it's the object that it's in reference to, that's the Aleph Tav, especially if it's hyphenated. But if it's Aleph Tav by itself, or if it's Aleph Tav, like Mark, your study, if you find it within the spelling of another word, especially if it's the 2 letters together, maybe that means something. And Bill Sanford, of course, did the wonderful, what do you call it? The Mats, the Messianic Aleph Tav scripture. And he's got a few different versions of that now. But I don't know if any of those considerations are the same or equal as the consideration that I have when I look at the Aleph Tav. But what I'm trying to say is that when Elohim starts writing or starts producing a narrative that he later tells Moshe to write, let's say it starts with Genesis 1, those are obviously his thoughts because there's nobody else around to have any thoughts. So therefore, if we say on earth as it is in heaven, we can bet that right there, something about the sequence of days and the task at hand for each day sequentially was very specifically the thoughts of Elohim exclusively and had nothing to do with any man-made human political, economic, or religious agenda. Therefore, I can trust not necessarily the translation, but I can certainly trust the cataloging, the indexing, the thematic organization, those events, because they're his. Okay, so I've kind of belabored that because to say in Leviticus 23, where Elohim says, these are my moedi. But now if he says these are moedim, the yod mem im is the suffix which makes it plural. So these are, we could say the festivals. But for him to say these are moedi, the yod suffix is personal. So it means they're his. And then you say, well, the mem is a prefix letter. It means the object or the place or the concept in format. Then ayin dalet is the actual essence, and ayin dalet yod in the dictionary, here's where the dictionary comes in, it means bejewelment, adornment, ornamentation, choice, best, treasure. It also means a place to gather a witness and a testimony. But then I could put those together and say, well, then these festivals are testimonies because they mean something, they say something. It's not just a ritual format. Here, eat this type of food and don't work and have this party and this is the day. Yeah, sure, they say that, but why? They mean something else. That talk that I did in on the shore of Lake Erie at Shavuot in 2017, if anybody's seen that, I forget how it's labeled. It was during the part of the what we call the Energy Conference up in Ohio. But anyway, I did this talk on the articles of the Mishkan if you took them out of the Mishkan itself and we're just looking at that. Perhaps we could go over that again. I have it written down as part of the notes on this study if you want. But for Elohim to say, these are my choice best treasures, well, then that's an expression right out of his head, right out of his heart. Choice best, he could have done anything, and this is what he came up with. So to say on earth as it is in heaven, this obviously came from heaven. And then one more reckoning on Mount Sinai, and this is where it comes into Exodus 27, verses 20 to 21, where he says to Moshe, what you saw, what I showed you on the mountain. Well, what does that mean? If he sees a pattern, either Yahuwah had already built a Mishkan and it's up in the heavens, and Moshe going up to Mount Sinai had some sort of transcendental experience going into some phase of interdimensional travel where he then sees this thing in heaven, or somewhere up on the mountain, Elohim disclosed this as a two-dimensional drawing, or he put into him heart to heart, mind to mind meld sort of thing, where Moshe had this vision, but nevertheless, it was, you might say, spawned in heaven. It was Yahuwah's personal matters. Okay, then last one to elaborate on here, Yeshua with the Beatitudes on Matthew 5. he goes up and he sits down, and seeing the multitudes, he sat down on the mount. He opened his mouth and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Okay, he already told us, I am not saying anything of my own agenda. I am saying only what I hear my Father saying. So for Yeshua then to expound on these matters in this sequence order, he was not just whimsically addressing the crowd, he was disclosing an index of some much more organized, we could call it an agenda, or much more fixed and almost, I refer to it as standing pillars. You see the Parthenon, that building in Greece, and it's got these pillars all the way around it. Huge, and it in Hebrew, the word would be Ayin Mem Dalet, Amad, Amadim, be the plural, almost like dominoes that you stand up and they're there until something knocks them down. So whatever Elohim built to stand, Nun Zadi Bet is also something that's stabbed in to stand, and then the word Zavot, as in his hosts or legions, if you realize the Nun is a prefix, it means this is his standing armies, or these are his legions that are expressions of, not that they're ensuring what he's doing is going to work, but they're the expression of it working, because he's the one who built and holds it all together. So what I'm saying is that in the heavens, the things that we have no access to other than his disclosure, he has disclosed them in the 7 days, the 7 Moedim, the pattern of 7 of the Mishkan, and the 7 Beatitudes. Those come directly out of heaven to earth, and the fact that they correlate exactly by the Mishkan pattern to the alphabet letters means this Hebrew alphabet in the pictographic format is absolutely the mind and the heart of Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, from his heavenly source projected through the veil into the earth realm for us to get into it, engage it, almost like a Merkabah, a chariot. This Hebrew alphabet is, you might say, the chariot of fire that we can ride to go on a joyride with him. It's his mind, it's his heart. It is purely stuff from the heavenly realm handed to us in the earth realm to engage in our mind. Okay, so anyway, that being said now, Sally, did you have a perspective here to cold call? Yeah.
It's funny. I just was recalling as you were just talking about what you were just saying, I was thinking about a rainbow and how Kurt and I were talking earlier about how the eyeball is designed that we, what was it, Kurt? You can, just because of the way that the eyeball is shaped, it's like, something about what was it? What was it you were saying?
Well, I've heard it said that, you need a few elements to exist to be able to see a rainbow. And if the eyeball wasn't shaped like it is, we couldn't see a rainbow.
So there are so many things placed in existence. This is my mind thinking when you were talking. And in perspective of a rainbow, to be able to see a rainbow, there are things that have to be all combined, certain things. You have to have water, and you have to have sunlight, and you have to have refraction all at once, and then you can see the rainbow. And when Eric was talking, I was thinking about these things. He's mentioning pillars, and he's mentioning the studying of the alphabet letters and the understanding and to study the Mishkan and the meanings of everything regarding the Mishkan, and sitting down on Shabbat, honoring that, and all of these things in combination coming together. There is a tangible, real benefit in doing so. And the only thing I can think of to kind of explain what I'm feeling about this is that concept of the reality of a rainbow, and how all of these things have to be in perfect harmony, distinct, in order for us to see the rainbow. But it's all in existence. It's just a matter of it coming together. And I appreciate everything that I have learned in studying this stuff. This is the best, my most favorite thing to do. This is it. There is nothing better. I love my granddaughter. I love spending time with her. But this is the most wonderful thing I have ever done, is to sit down and completely with all my heart get into this. And I mean, it isn't easy. I haven't gone to college. I've had a couple of licenses for certain things, but this is the best education I've ever had. And I wouldn't want to trade that for anything. I wouldn't want to go to college and learn something. I mean, I have no interest in it. This keeps my mind going and my heart going. And there's nothing better. If you sit and learn these letters, and what I've done is I've put it all over the place. It's in my room. It's here in this is the place that I sort of dwell and study. And I have it all over. I have the Shema in paleo. I have the Noon Stomach with wings. I have lights. I have the menorah, the chart. I have the Torah. I have my red dictionary. I have colored pens and pencils. There is nothing better than this. And to just sit and dwell. And it's not all at once coming to you, but as I partake of this, as I walk through the day, and I'm not engaging the world out there, I'm just going through the day that I have, and I'm learning as I go. It's like it's presenting itself. He's presenting to me my understanding, and what I'm studying is presented in real life, in my actual going about my day. This is it. There's no drink, there's no substance, there's no activity that can come close to this. This is it for me. And there's no better conversation I could ever have. In fact, I don't talk a lot, but when it comes to this stuff, that's the Pezadi. It just, my mouth will open and I'll talk and talk and talk and talk. Ask Eric and Kurt. I mean, it just happens. It's real. It's true. There is nothing better. So I have all the encouragement for any person to take it in and start learning and start studying. And if it takes you a week to study one word, then that's great, because it'll get better. It does get better, but it starts somewhere. And sitting down on Shabbat and doing these things, but it all comes together, just like that formulation of what's needed to create that rainbow, and then to be able to see the rainbow. There's so much going on, but we partake of it all in combination. He has made.
And then just the other interesting part of that is, in order to see that rainbow, you still need you. You can't see the rainbow without you. You can't understand these words without you. You can't study without you. You got to commit to it.
Right. And what is refraction? What is refraction? It is bending. It's the bending of the light bends within the water. So our bending to his way, the Haderet Kadosh, his way, learning his language. What else could there be to learn? This is it. This is incredible. This is the best thing we could ever do. Right. And I can say, since I've learned this, I've been studying this for 3 years. And honestly, I had no idea what I had. A lot of people, by the time they're in high school, they kind of know what they are going to do. I still didn't know once I finished high school. And I didn't know 10 years after high school. And even further after that, I didn't have a clue. This is it. This is what I'm to do.
It changes as you get older anyways. So what you wanted as a teenager, what you wanted as a 20-year-old, what you wanted as a 30-year-old, it changes. And I've gone through a lot of cycles. But this never changes. This desire that you have now, that never changes.
I have friends that got tattoos through, years and years, and everybody's into the tattoos and stuff. And somebody maybe had asked me, why don't I? Honestly, at that time, I couldn't come up with anything that had enough meaning for me to put on a tattoo. And I just didn't have the unction for a tattoo. But this is it. This is the tattoo, but it's not like for everybody. It's within me. It's written on my heart. This is it. This is my tattoo. I guess better way to say it, but it's there.
It's like the scripture says,
it all the time, constantly.
It's like Scripture says, your body was
I want to do
created-
it now.
Your body's the perfect canvas that was created by Yahweh, and He doesn't want it marred with anything. That's why He tells us in Leviticus not to have any tattoos, because you're marring His perfect design, His perfect canvas, which is the human body, right?
Modest,
So
right?
that's
What
what
is
that
the tattoo?
says.
It's a drawing right on your heart.
That canvas.
Well,
Sorry, Sean, what did you say?
I said it's like he says, like he's written the Torah on our hearts. What is a
that's
tattoo?
absolutely
Drawing.
true.
He's tattooed it on our hearts. You know what I
And
mean?
it's never ending. If I went to a congregation and sat in the pews or whatever, and I sat there and let somebody tell me what all that means, and they're interpreting it from English, I went to those things and I just sat there and cried every single time I sat there. I cried. My kids were like, Mom, why are you crying? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm crying. I know why I was crying, because when it talks about it, I have to find the Psalm, but David, it's written in one of the Psalms that I'm crying because I haven't kept your Torah. I'm sitting there in tears, and I'm just, it's incredible. And when I read the Psalms, it's like I read my own heart. It's like I read what I need to, I can read it. It's beyond anything else. So it is, I can only say it is worth it. And for what it's worth. Eric says that quite a bit, and I like that because that's a great way to say it. For what it's worth, really, really, really take it serious and put your entire self, including all of your heart, because it's Shema Israel, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Echad, Ve'ahavta et Yahuwah Eloheka b'kol levavaka uv'kol nafshaka uv'kol me'odecha. It's so important that we do it fully, completely, 100%, nothing else, and focus and fully give. And there's nothing better. And He shows us in His way. He says, Yeshua said, I don't give to you like the world gives. He shows us in His way, what is pleasing to Him. And He takes the guesswork out, because it's certain. He's written it down, and it's all we have to do is pick it up and learn it.
Okay.
And most wonderful teacher. So
Amen.
I'm a big encouragement giver of anybody that wants to study. I love it. 100%.
If I might add something, Rick, one thing I realized when I look the word in Hebrew, in Paleo Hebrew, sometimes I really don't like to translate it, because you look at the pictures, and the pictures themselves are speaking out, and the sequence and of the Mishkan where they stand, and I just don't like to translate it. Sometimes it's just like so many people are asking me to teach Paleo Hebrew, and I start doing some recording, but I teach the basic for sure, but pertaining to the translation, I feel no, it's for everybody to learn to be Hebrew. So when you look the word, you get the word like this, knowing the pictogram of each letter, and I think that's where we should be, or we will get. And we will not take the language that is Kodesh to bring it, to our own language. I think the letter in themselves, the word in themselves speaks a lot, and many times I'm wordless when I look at those words, but there's depth. I see them, but I don't want to share them.
That's actually a really great point you bring up. When you're trying to write a Bible translation, even if it's something as wonderful as King James or NIV or whichever, the Amplified uses numerous words instead of one word, because that's the problem, that you can't necessarily look at one Hebrew word and choose the best one English word. So the Amplified gives you maybe half a dozen, and say, yeah, it's like this. That's like a real close thing to what looking at the Paleo Hebrew is. But it was never suggested to me, it was never given to me, and a real appreciation of the Amplified Bible back when I was reading the English Bible. And similar, Gieland, what you're saying, what I found was that once you learn the meanings of the letters, you could just stare at this word. We should get into this first verse here, verse 20.
I'm gonna stop the recording and then start again, because I started recording well before you got on, so we're already at an hour. But there's usually nuggets of gold that I always miss that I wished I had recorded.
Sure.
So.
Well, just to say, before you cut this off for the 1 hour, is there anything that any of you, Sean or Mark, or any that you want to say one more thing for this hour segment before we jump into the next one?
I'm fine. The ladies expressed themselves really well, and it's really, in essence, it's all what we all feel. You got so many people say, well, it's okay for you, Mark, because you have a great memory. But I started the same way. Eric started the same way. Every one of us starts, one day at a time, and determined to find out the truth. So if you're determined to find out the truth, it doesn't matter if you think you have a good memory or not. Just keep at it, and it'll come.
And the simple thing about the truth, going back to the name, almost 7,000 times when Yahuwah refers to himself, he says, I am, and there's these 4 Hebrew letters, Yud, He, Wah, He, Yud, He, Vav, He.
Yeah.
Yahweh, Yahuwah. I am Yahuwah. I was talking to somebody the other day. Hi, Rachel. If you watch this, just say the 5 English letters, the vowels, I-E-O-U-A, Yahuwah. That's how you pronounce the unpronounceable name. Look at the word Hawaii spelled backwards. Hawaii, say it backwards, Yahuwah. Same, I-O-W-A, Iowa, the state right there in the heartland of the United States. They're all the same exact word, but they're hidden in such a way that we couldn't see them. But why would you change it to something that says Lord or Hashem or Adonai or God? Or those aren't even close to the articulation. So somebody with a mind of overriding what Yahuwah said, whoever that was, and I'm not saying it was the devil or some churchman, let's say it was Yahweh himself allowed his name to be hidden for all these, at least since 285 BC with Ptolemy II. So it's been 2,300 years at least. So the fact that we now have access to the things in heaven, like his name, we have access now on earth to the things that were only in heaven that have been kept from us on earth for thousands of years, which has to have an impact. You know, we're just in the discovery phase. We're not into the repercussion phase yet. Well, maybe we are and don't know it, but what I'm saying is this is a setup for a really big deal. That's part of what's the why do this, because something's bound to happen. You can't say nobody on the planet can speak his name or know the name and then all of a sudden say, oh, here it is. Look at it. It's hidden in the island of Hawaii, sitting out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And he's going to let that be found and all of a sudden not have an impact? It's going to have an impact, like an asteroid from outer space hitting the Earth. It impacted the dinosaurs, I think, you know.
You know, Sally and I were talking last night about this whole, we keep reading and we keep hearing Yahuwah say through his words that learn my language, read my language, learn to read Hebrew. He keeps saying it in his own language. And so, you know, all of a sudden, Israel's awake. All of a sudden, Israel's keeping the Moedim. All of a sudden, it's important to us. And then all of a sudden, we're learning the language. Like, that's like, I feel like that's the last piece, dude. This is the last piece. Like he's on the verge of coming back and smashing our enemies, man.
This is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, you wanted to close this off, and then we'll get into verse 20 of Exodus 27.